Hello. I apologize, I'm starting a little bit earlier than my schedule said, but I am really tired and I was like, if I don't start this now, I am gonna fall asleep. So we are working on our little Loch Ness monster. I already did the base painting. So I did him solid black for just the base coat. I was looking through the accounts again, and they vary, but they're typically going to be either a dark green, brown, gray. Most of the time it's black, brown, or gray that are the colors that the sightings report. So we're going to be doing that along with maybe kind of a pattern of seal coloration versus plesiosaur, since those are the two most common descriptions, and seals are the most common explanation of what it probably is. We're also going to be doing the little base for the bottle. I still have to finish cleaning the label off because you can still see it, but we're going to be putting it inside a bottle like this. So we're going to be making the base for this and attaching the Loch Ness monster to it so that it'll fit inside the bottle. I will not be doing the resin parts on video. They're a bit messy. They take a lot more setup. I will try to record them so that they can be seen for the final edit, but for the live video, we're just going to be painting and then working on the base. So I'm going to go ahead and get a paintbrush here. Yeah, so we want to do the underside here a lighter brown. And start with a dark. We'll start with a dark brown and then we'll work up to a lighter brown. And we'll go from there. But yeah, most of the coloration tends to be a muted earth colors. Those tend to be the tones that are described in sightings, so we're going that route. And I'll try to do some of the whatchamacallit, the striping that's commonly done on like the plesiosaur dinosaur type things. The only thing I wonder is like how much of that is just artist rendition. How much of the coloration do they actually know? And how much is just artist renditions and ideas. But it looks cool, so we will go with some of the striping a little bit. And then seals are very speckled. So I may see if we can kind of do some striping and then some spotted speckles around the edges here between the underbelly and the upper part like that. And I did notice I got distracted last video and really didn't pay attention to where I was holding it, and I kept holding it away from the camera because I was chatting. So yeah, I'm going to try not to do that. The whole reason I have this bear is just so that I remember to keep things in the center of the bear so that they're on camera. Because if not, I'll just pull it back here and totally forget that I'm supposed to be doing videos. So hopefully I'm better about that, because it does make the editing rather difficult when huge portions of the sculpt are done off camera because I'm silly and I forget where I'm supposed to be holding it. I also totally forgot about doing the in-between videos that I usually do. I was really exhausted this week, so I did not have the time. But I will be doing the edit for this one sometime this week. I was also working on like 2 other projects that are likely going to get me money. So one of them definitely will, and the other one will hopefully. Because I was working more on my keycaps that I showed off last video, last stream. I have the molds done for a couple of those, so I will hopefully be painting those up, testing them out on my own keyboard real quick, and then listing them on the shop soon, but I gotta paint them first. There we go. All right. So that's the start of the brown on the underside. And you can't see it, but down here beneath my feet, I have a box full of some terrain flocking and some other little rocks and things, some fun stuff to do for the base. I just have to make sure I don't make the base too tall, because it's got to be tall enough to go past the join here, because I'm going to wrap this in, like, I have like hemp rope. So I'm going to wrap that in hemp rope to hide the join, because I'm going to reseal it with resin. And then I'll hide it with the rope so you can't see it, which means the monster needs to be up here. But if I do it too high, it won't fit in the bottle. So I'm going to have to double check the height quite a few times to make sure I don't mess that up. Okay. Now we're just dry brushing a slightly lighter brown so that we can get a lot of texture. Here we go. As always, I have a ton of other art pieces that I need to be working on, but yeah, I don't know what hit me the past few weeks. I've just been not sleeping too well and so exhausted. So hopefully that phase will end and I will be back on track soon, working on what I need to do. But some days doing my regular job is about all I can handle, so it is very annoying. Okay, so now we have some distinction here. Some coloring differences. All right. So I think what we'll do... Go ahead and start with the green. We'll just lightly do some green. There we go. Today's video shouldn't be too terribly long because I don't think it's going to take me too long to get the colors that I want on this. But we shall see. Most of it I think will be spent trying to figure out the base. And I apologize if I'm extremely quiet. I am very sleepy. Very sleepy. There we go. So now we have our base colors there. All right, I think we'll take a break from the green. Now we're going to do a lighter brown. Not that one. Let's try this one. Okay. There we go. All right. Just going to do up the neck a little bit. Ah. Oops. All right. Now we're going to do the lighter green. Actually, let me see, because I might want to do... Yeah, let's do the lighter green and see where that gets us. And then we'll potentially go back and do... and do some more grayish or brown tones mixed in here. And here is when you can kind of see the texture coming out a whole lot more that we did. Couldn't see it before when we were sculpting as much because the camera glare as well as the clay just all being a solid color. But when you start painting, it really comes out, really brings out the texture difference. All right. Oops, too much. Careful not to use too much. Now the head should probably be a lighter tone overall. Just because I noticed that was a pattern that seals had, was that their heads tend to be lighter. So we will go that route, maybe make it a little bit grayish in tone. We'll see kind of how I can blend these colors, but okay, there we go. Now we need to make the head a little lighter, and I also want to introduce the gray color a bit. So part of the nice thing about not changing brushes is that you can kind of blend the colors a little bit, because there's still the old paint on your brush. And since acrylics dry so quickly, it's harder sometimes to blend them. That's why I do them in very light little layers. But we'll add this just to give it a little bit more of a grayish tone in spots. Okay, now let me see. Yellow might be too much, but if I do it very lightly, I might be able to get away with it. Let me see. Or I could, yeah, I can use this. Kind of mix this white metallic color, shimmery color, with the yellow a little. Okay. Get a new brush. And let me see if we can start doing some of the striping. And don't worry, I know this is way too bright. I will tone it down in a little bit. We just got to kind of get our bases here. Yeah, I should have probably started with a darker brown, but that's okay. That's okay. We'll make it work. We'll do this, and then we'll go over it with the darker brown here in a second, or with the green potentially, so we can kind of blend those colors together. There we go. It's a little too pronounced, but let me grab the green again. We can kind of blend this a little bit. Okay. Let's go back to our green metallic. So we can kind of tone down the splotchy stripes a little bit because they're a little too bright. Okay. Almost looks camo colored right now. That's fine. Supposed to be kind of splotchy. All right. Do you think I'll add a little bit of a gold? Just a faint little bit of striping here and there. And then right on the edge of the fins. There. You can kind of see the variegated pattern that we've done if I can get the camera to focus for me. All right, so now we're going to lighten up the face a bit more. Right, I'm going to take a little bit of white and do that because I'm not quite getting the effect that I want. And kind of fade this back into the neck a little here. There we go. Do some more blending at the joint between the underbelly and the upper part of its back. The colors. There we go. All right. Now I'm going to pull up the coloration of seals real quick. Okay. Sometimes they have a little bit of a darker patch on the very top of their head, and then splotches. So up here a little bit darker. The nose still light colored. Okay, and then do sort of a splotchy appearance with the green. And we're going to do that all along the edge here just a little bit. Because seals tend to have, between the two or three colors of their body, they have these weird little splotchy, almost like freckle kind of patterns. So we're going to achieve that like that. And then we still have to paint the rest of the head here because we got to do the teeth and then the eyes. So take one of my teeny tiny little brushes. We'll do the teeth first. Probably shouldn't be white, actually. It should be a brownish color. Like that. Well, this is probably too light. Or too brown, rather, too dark. But we'll see how it goes. That's a little too dark, so let's get a little white mixed in there. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you dropped by. It's all good. I still have to do the base for it. Alright. Plus, I started a tad bit earlier than I initially had planned. There we go. So we have the teeth. Come on, camera, focus. There we go. And I've already done some patterning, I guess. That's not the right word. Anyway, patterns on the back. the different colors. All right, so we got to do the eyes, and I'm probably just going to do the eyes black since we are taking inspiration from seals. Seals and plesiosaurs, that is, for the coloring. If I can do... I'm happy you dropped by. I appreciate it. There we go. There's one eye. See if I can do the other eye. Oh, there we go. Okay. Alright, whenever I do eyes like this, I always add a tiny dot of white. Just so the eyes look kind of reflective. It makes the eyes look alive. Since I didn't have the glass eyes for it this time, because I didn't have any small enough. I always add a little dot of white because it gives the impression of it being slightly reflective, and it gives the eyes kind of a little bit of life. There we go. I think I want to add some more speckling on the nose. And then after that, I'm probably going to start on the base. The base for the inside of the bottle. There we go. There. It's always hard to get this camera to focus. Alright, I think I like most of the way this coloring looks for the Loch Ness Monster. And I gotta grab my bag of assorted rocks and sand because we gotta do the base for it in the bottom of the bottle. Alright. But yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with the coloring. It reminds me a lot of camo, what I ended up doing. Because I was trying to paint it kind of like the plesiosaurs I was looking at, with the speckling and like light to dark color that you see on seals, but with the coloring of plesiosaurs. So I think I achieved that. Looks very dinosaur-like. Alright. Now, I showed this a little earlier, but I did get some of the labels. I still gotta clean the sticky stuff off, which that's always a pain to do. I think vinegar works pretty well and rubbing alcohol, but I still gotta clean the bottle up a bit more. But it will fit like this, and I will hide this seam so you can't see it when I put it back together. But anyway, I want to put at least one big rock. Enough sand. Okay. So let me see. Part of the challenge here is that I have to have this high enough it's above the seam, but not too high that it's gonna be outside the bottle. So I think we're good if we do something like this. Okay, that's fine. We can have this rock here. Because I wanted to have some assorted size rocks for the base. And then, what else have I got in here? have black sand. I also have white sand. I don't think I have regular color sand. That might be a problem. I'll make it work. Some greenery. All right. Let's see if we're putting them inside the bottle. Is this a decent height? I apologize. It's going to be a lot of measuring stuff to see if this will work. Okay, I think that'll be a decent height, but we got to make sure the rock is all the way in the bottle. There we go. We'll put it like that. Okay. And I brought UV resin, which I might run out of. I might have to get more, but I have some downstairs if I need more. Stay up there. Oh, I have more greenery too. I also have stuff like this, which is flocking, so I'm going to add some moss to the rocks down here. And then we'll put our Loch Ness monster on top. And when it goes in the bottle, I'm going to fill it the water up to, or the resin, slightly dyed up to about here. So it looks like the classic image that I used in the thumbnail. Alright, so I'm going to put some clear resin just on the bottom here, just to get these rocks to stay in place for me. Alright, this is going to be a little slow, but my favorite work of mine, probably, I was really fond of my cherubim, because that was one of the most challenging to do. But I think my favorite creature was the Baku. The Baku's the nightmare eater that's based on like Asian mythology. So that's probably my favorite. It's one of my earlier ones. I redid the audio from it a few weeks ago, I think. But so the Baku is probably my favorite creature of mine that I've done. Sculpture-wise, I think my cherubim was my favorite for challenge. It was one of the most challenging I've done that turned out pretty good. So, yeah, I think... I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I do really, and I really love my little hamster that I made ages ago. I do really like him. Oh, that's solid. Cool. Let's start over here. Yeah, I have so many shelves in my house now that are just filled with sculptures. I actually had to build like 2 new shelves for myself because I just keep adding stuff. And because these aren't really... Now, if I do the bottle ones, I can probably sell them, but most of the bigger sculptures aren't really great to sell. They usually just end up staying in my house. So... And I have one big shelf that I haven't touched yet, so I still have a lot of room. But it was starting to get a little scarce there. That is the one downside to liking sculptures, is they take up so much room in your house that it's just like you run out of room so fast. All right, those are in there pretty well. That one's not. Solidify this one in there. And then we'll add some grass and some other stuff to these rocks. So do you find the mythological creatures or like the more cutesy animal type stuff I do more interesting? there. Okay, that one's in there solidly. Pretty good. Perfect. I just gotta make sure this rock is stuck where I want it, mostly. Does it still go over top? Oh, wait, wrong way. Thank you. Oh, there we go. That fits. Perfect. Yeah, I'm always, you know, wondering which ones to do more of, because I've been trying to experiment, which I like. I like doing a little bit of everything, but I can never tell if, I mean, I will say the fan art stuff gets me the most views, but I can never tell if my original character designs, like my little animals, or if my mythology stuff's more fun to watch. Here we are. All right, that's in there pretty solidly. See, we are probably going to have it tilted this direction, like that. Is that going to be perfect? Okay. Let me see what else I got down here. I will say the mythology is fun because I get to learn something new every time. So that's always enjoyable for me. I should have brought tweezers. Thought I had a pair up here. Apparently I don't. Okay, I'll make do. I shall find a way to make this work. Add some lovely green moss to this. Here we go. These things will have to make sure there's no loose pieces later, else the little grass pieces will float up in the resin. It wouldn't be the end of the world, because I think if it's, you know, most water type areas do have floating moss and algae, so it wouldn't look too bad, but I just need to make sure I don't have too many loose pieces floating around. Okay. Stick that there. Some up here. Yeah. There we go. Favorite myth? Well, I mean, mythological creatures, the Baku. Trying to think if I have a specific, like, fairy tale or myth or something that I like especially a lot. Oh, I know what I like. So I haven't sculpted this one, but there is a Scots-Irish one. Or I think it's, I don't remember if it's Irish or Scottish, but it was in that area. It's a little bit more recent. It's recent enough I would almost class it as a cryptid, but it's the legend of the ghillie dhu. Now, I don't know if you were familiar with what we call a ghillie suit, but a ghillie suit, which is like covered in grass and branches that people use for like hunting and wartime stuff, comes from the legend of the ghillie dhu. And basically, it's a story of a little girl, I believe her name is Jessie McCrae. I don't remember how old she was. She got lost in the woods near her house. And she met I believe the word ghillie dhu means like a dark man or a dark boy. She met this little strange guy who was dressed in green bark leaves and stuff like that, and insisted that he looked after her, took care of her, and like 2 days later she showed up at her house again. That is the majority of the legend. But the reason I like it so well is so many especially in that area, so many legends of fairies and the fae and stuff, they're always so negative. Like, so many of them are actively harmful or mean, or they're neutral. Whereas the legend of the Ghillie Dhu, he literally just took care of this random little kid and guided her back to her house. I'm trying to think of what the time frame, that might be the early 1900s. But it's a fun one to read about. I was thinking about doing it eventually, but because he's very humanoid, I am not the best at doing people. So I've been shying away from that one, but that was one on my list I want to do eventually. Because I really love to see a more wholesome myth. Same with the Baku. The Baku eats nightmares and stuff, so it's another one that's very wholesome and very nice. I do like my dark, scary stuff, but I like wholesome ones a lot more. Here we go. Add some more moss on our rocks here. And I'm particularly fond of Celtic and Irish mythology and Japanese mythology. I think they have some of the coolest. I know, that's why I'm always like, whenever I run across one where it's like, oh, it's just a sweet little fairy guy who took care of kids, you know, it makes me happy. They do tend to be a little more on the creepy negative side. Although I will say, some of the legends that we have negative associations with weren't originally. For example, I don't know if you know much about a banshee, but stuff like the banshee and such, they weren't really good or bad. They were kind of neutral. They were like omens, or they would warn people of things, but they weren't the cause of those things. I think something similar happens with the church grim, which that legend just makes me sad. I will be sculpting a church grim at some point. But a lot of times it wasn't that they were meant to be like seen as evil creatures or scary. It was more that they were omens or warnings. So some of the myths get turned from omens and warnings to bad things. But yeah, they do tend to be a little more negative. So whenever I find a nice one, it makes me happy. Now, the thing about the Ghillie Dhu that upset me and made me sad was that the instant, as with every sighting of anything unusual, the instant the girl came home with this story, of course, everybody was like, oh, now we need to hunt this little guy down. And I'm like, why would you do that? He saved your kid. Why would you? Like, assuming that the kid was telling the truth, like, why would you immediately go, oh, yes, let's see if we can find him and hunt him down? That is like a common thing with every cryptid or myth sightings, that everybody's immediately up in arms like, oh, we need to go track it down now. And it's very aggressive. It's not usually a nice thing. So that kind of makes me sad. But it is odd to me that that is always the response. Got some nice moss on these rocks. I'm also getting glue all over my fingers. Do you have a favorite myth or legend that you like to read about or that you remember? I'm also a big fan of fairy tales. Classic fairy tales. Let's see. Okay, let's put some glue on the base of this here. There. Actually, I might be able to resin cure this a little faster. Oh, La Llorona. That's, is that the weeping woman who, like, drowns people? Or am I incorrect? Or, like, her children drowned? I'm trying to remember, because I know the name. Yes, okay, I thought it was. It's been a while, because I have read a little bit about that one. That one's a really sad one, if I remember correctly. Alright, we got more of our base getting done here. Alright, we need to do some moss on this side too. One of the ones that always makes me insanely sad is the stories about church grims. Not so much because the story is sad, but the reason why the legend exists. So a church grim, which I will be doing at some point in the future, is a black dog that supposedly guards the graveyard of a church. And the reason that legend started was there was this superstition that whoever was either the first or the last, it depends on the location, whether they think it's the first or the last person who died in the graveyard, that they would be forced to keep like a vigil or a watch over the other graves. So they started this tradition, I don't know how widespread it was, that they would kill a black dog and bury it in the graveyard. That way the black dog would be basically forced to take the role of guardian and a person wouldn't have to do it. Which, that one just makes me sad because that means a bunch of poor little black dogs got killed for no reason. But that's where the legend of the church grim is often associated with. And they're often kind of like banshees, seen as omens and warnings. Or as guides and protectors of graveyards. But yeah, sometimes when you read mythology, you find some very sad side things that kind of go along with it. Knock all the loose stuff. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure what I'm doing next week. I still gotta make up my mind. But, let me make a couple more of these. Where'd oh, there it is. But, yeah, there's a lot of very interesting, very good, very interesting stories. Some of which are sad, but I do find them interesting. I think they give a lot of insight into human nature. Sometimes in a good way and sometimes in a bad way. I am extremely eclectic when it comes to music. I listen to practically everything. And when I say everything, I mean like literally everything. I can go from listening to metal to listening to like ancient Gregorian chants. I am most fond of folk music, which kind of lines up with my love of mythology and culture and stuff. But I also listen to pop music. I like a lot of oldies. I think the things I come back to the most are probably folk music, jazz, and like old-timey like 1930s to 1940s kind of music. I'm really fond of like old movies, old TV, and I love the crooners like Frank Sinatra and stuff. But I do listen to pretty much anything and everything. Like I listen to rap music, I listen to movie soundtracks, I listen to choral music. I'm all over the place. I think the only genre I'm not terribly fond of, and this is one of those, I've been exposed to it so much I don't like it, is modern country. I do like the old bluesy country, but I don't like most modern pop country, and that's just because I grew up in West Virginia, and here we basically have two stations that play anything like rock. One plays rock music, there's like an alternative station, there's like one that plays classical music that I love, and everything else is country music. So I don't know, I've heard it so much I just don't like it anymore. But other than that, pretty much any genre of music I probably like. And like I said, I like the old-timey like bluesy country and folk type country, but I don't like modern pop country. It's often easier for me just to tell people what I don't like, because there's less of that than what I do like. I'm also very fond of classical music, specifically Debussy and Chopin, because I used to play piano a lot. Let's see if we can put some sand on this base. Here's what we got going for the base so far. At some point, I want to see if I can write like a soft little musical background just for my intro for the videos, but I don't really have recording equipment appropriate for that, and I'm not the best. I know some music theory, but I'm not the best at writing music. I know tons of people who do, so I should probably just ask my friends to help out, but I prefer to do everything myself because I'm stubborn. Oh, nice. Yeah, instrumental's lovely. I listen to a lot of soundtrack stuff where there's no singing and it's just the instrumental stuff from the background of things. But yeah. Do you have a specific composer or just in general? Put more resin. I feel like percussions are probably percussion instruments are the ones I know the least about, except I guess piano is technically a percussion, isn't it? It's a weird mix of percussion and string. But yeah, I actually have I have a bowdrum, but I never learned to play it properly, so I cannot claim much knowledge of percussion. Shine from the underside here, probably be easier. Oh, nice, nice. I love the marimba. It sounds cool. I've mostly played stringed instruments, so like guitar. I did a little bit of violin, piano, which is the weird crossover between is this percussion or is it stringed or is it both? I do have an Armenian flute called a duduk. It's one of my favorite, but I'm one of those people, I think I said before, I'm a jack of all trades and a master of none. I have not perfected any of these. Piano's the only one that I'm like halfway decent at. But I am super rusty. I need to get back into it. I just don't have enough hours in the day to actually become good at it. Ooh, I love cello. I love cellos. They're so cool. My dad used to play banjo. Yeah, I love cello, but unfortunately, I don't think I could play it. I have very tiny hands, and I learned pretty quickly stringed instruments are difficult when you have very small hands and slightly deformed hands, which doesn't help. But yeah, playing violin and guitar is a little rough sometimes for me. Piano is much more friendly. I also have like I have a harmonica, I think, and I kind of learned how to play the harmonica, but not that great. All right. Got a pretty decent base here. Let me see how we gotta get our little guy here. Is that safe? Is that gonna fit? Move it back just a tad. Okay. All right, I think we're gonna attach our Loch Ness monster to the rocks. Are we in there? Okay, we're good. Come on. Do you just play for fun, or do you actually are you part of a group, or you just do it for fun with musical instruments? There we go. Come on. There we go. This is almost cured. I gotta make sure this is on here solidly. There we go. Stay on there. You're almost done with the base. I think I might add a couple more like grassy fiber bits around just to make it look more interesting. Okay. There we go. Put that on this side. Oh, nice. Very cool. Yeah, I've only ever done stuff as an amateur. I've never progressed into anything like more professional. That's really cool. I love music. I think music's also really, even if it's like more upbeat stuff, it's very relaxing and it's fun to learn. Yeah, I think we're gonna add a few more of the fibery bits. Okay. I need to leave this upside down. I feel like I'm trying to shake ketchup out of a ketchup bottle. Come on. There we go. I'm gonna put some more. No, this one. I've always had an interest in music. I just never pursued it very much. I feel like there's never enough hours in the day to do all the things I want to do. Thank you. Yeah, I like it pretty well. I'm gonna, when I fill the bottle with resin, I'm gonna try to tint it just a tiny, tiny bit. But it should look cool. Okay. Do that and then cure that. Yeah, I'm gonna add a few more, I think just a few little more grassy bits here and there. Because I think it gives it more character. And then the water we're gonna do just at the level of the back. Which I can't do that part on camera, unfortunately. I have to do that after the fact because I have to join the bottle together and then I have to get all my resin stuff from downstairs, but it will be on the posted video later. Yeah, come on. It's solid. Okay, good. Good, that's cured now. I can probably do some in this corner too. I think I'm debating because I tint water slightly blue, but I think I might do a tad bit of a greenish color. I need to what I need to do is I need to look up the Loch Ness. I think the Loch Ness is a little more on the murky side, so I might do the tiniest bit of brown and the tiniest bit of like a greenish turquoise, kind of an off green blue. But I gotta double check what the Loch Ness looks like. But I think everything I've read is that it's more on the murky side. But I also have to be careful because if I tint it too much, then you won't be able to see through it. So I just have to do it very lightly. Just enough to tint the water, but not enough that it obscures what's inside it. But yeah, I'm thinking like an off greenish with the tiniest bit of brown. There we go. All right, let me think. Is there anything else I can add? There, I added some more little grassy bits here and there. I actually love doing miniatures and base making like this. Got our sand in the bottom. Let's see. I got my. I think we're all. Cure the bottom a bit more. I think it's all in there pretty solidly. Honestly, I feel like the hardest part's going to be getting the labels, the rest of the stickiness of the labels off the bottle. Because it's always a pain. Cure the resin. Alright, let me make sure this does in fact fit the way that it is supposed to. Yeah. So it'll look like this. Except this label's going to be gone. It's not going to be sticky. I will clear that off and fill it with water. I don't know if I can get the lettering off. I'll have to see if I can scrape the lettering off without scratching the bottle. Because I don't really want the lettering on there. But if not, it can always be posed this direction. Okay. And part of what I'm going to do is when I reseal this bottle back together, this seal part right here, the edge, I'm going to wrap in a sort of, I have a bunch of like hemp rope stuff. So I'm going to basically wrap a thin layer of rope around the bottom here and then probably at the top to make it kind of match. And then that should help. That'll hide the seam and then should look cool too. Since my bottle seam is always going to be a little bit too visible. Yeah, I think I might have to use vinegar to get this sticky label off. I was scratching it, but it didn't, I don't want to damage the glass. Or rubbing alcohol. That usually works too. This one has a really cool cork too. It's got a wooden cork at a wooden stopper with a cork at the bottom. I work at a place that has a bar on the side, so they have tons of bottles like these. I used a tile saw. I tried to do it the proper way, I guess. The proper way being the scoring it and then heat shocking it back and forth with hot and cold water. My experiments with that were pretty bad. So I ended up using a tile saw. Unfortunately, you can tell that it's a little bit chipped on the edges. I need to get a different saw for my tile saw. There's ones that are intended for like glass tiles. So I'm probably going to look at getting a different blade just so that there's less chipping and little cracks on the edges. But yeah, I gave up on the scoring it and then trying to shock it by putting it in hot water and cold. That did not go well for me. Too many of my bottles shattered. I think with the tile saw, out of like the 10 bottles I cut, 3, I think, cracked a bit more than I could use. But the rest of them, like, I can still work with this. So, yeah, I just need to get a specifically glass saw for that tile saw. And it works pretty well, if you take your time. But yeah, I tend to do a couple more of these bottle type creatures, just for fun. I have a fan art type one that I want to do that's based on a horror fishing game that's cool. And then I think I want to do my own version of just like a water nymph at some point inside a bottle. But I thought the Loch Ness monster would be pretty cool, so. Alright, I think, oh, I got resin on the edge of the bottle there. But yeah, I have quite a few bottles now that are cut open. This was just the coolest one for making this particular creature. The other ones are a little bit more upright. I think there are also glass cutting saws that are like for stained glass that people use, but they're a lot smaller. So I don't know if they would work for this or not. Alright, I think I'm pretty much done for tonight. I don't think there's anything else I really want to add to the base here. But hey, I appreciate you stopping by and hanging out with me. It makes this a lot more fun when I have people chatting with me. It's always awesome. And I get instant feedback on stuff too, which is nice. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with him. I don't think there's anything else I want to add to the base here. So it'll just be, I have to seal the bottle off camera and then I'll pour the resin into it, and hopefully that'll be in a day or two, and then I'll do the minute edit video like I usually do with the lore of the Loch Ness Monster. So, yeah. But I appreciate you hanging out with me. And to anyone who watches this later, I appreciate that very much. If you like, thank you. I appreciate it. if you or if anyone who watches this later has suggestions for stuff I should try sculpting, for miniature scenes you'd like to see, I do take suggestions, and I have a growing list of stuff that I need to do. I have a couple SCPs that I need to work on and some other things, but yeah, I appreciate it, and I hope that you have a wonderful night.